welcome to the Pop Shot Podcast, the number one podcast that talks about the multiverse. This week, we are talking about the news of the week, what we've been reading, watching, and playing, and for your consideration, and the topic of the week, which this week is Multiversal Media. As you can see, we are multiversal counterparts of our normal selves. I'm from the universe where everybody has slightly bad depth perception, so we all wear eye patches.
Because
I'm from the universe where bald people have hair.
And I'm from the universe where you need to wear two hats or you get shot in the street. So it's just a rule. There's snipers everywhere. You go out with one hat, just dead, mate.
Two-hat-averse.
That's how it works. I am Massimo
safe.
from One Eye Universe, joined by, as always, or most of the time at least, Dan the Man. Say hi, Dan.
Hi, Dan. I'm from the universe of 420, where every day is smoke weed every day, and we're all. It's a capitalist state. It's like 1984. So, like I said, you get shot in the street, you don't wear two hats. But hey, green's legal here, so it's great.
Oh, that's a good time. It's a good time.
Yeah.
And
Roundabouts, so that mean ups and downs.
Joined by our favourite Irish compatriot, Jerd Noise.
What's the crack?
Must be weird having hair.
Top of the morning. Yeah, it's strange. It's itchy.
What I enjoy is the hair at the back, and particularly see when you turn your head. That's a nice kind of mullet you've got going there.
Yeah. So yeah, what as I was saying to Mass is from a Bowie Halloween costume. I'm trying to fix my focus. That I fashioned into a ginger wig mullet.
Nice.
This is very uncomfortable, by the way. I hope you guys know this right now. Like,
Yeah.
having an eye patch on when you've got two eyes is really.
Maybe you should have like
ideal.
got it like a few days in advance and like adjusted it
Adjusted
so
to it, yeah.
like choking your head. Look at
you think it wouldn't be like a good idea to grab it
do
just
you know what I feel
before
like
the
I'm
podcast?
watching? See that video where they get the watermelon and they try and put all the rubber bands around it and eventually the watermelon explodes? I feel that's Massimo's head now.
That'll be the grand finale of the episode.
Anyway,
Black Bolt style.
Spoilers. Moving on, we are going to be talking about the newest news of the week because that's what we're going to call it now because that's what I came up with on the spot with it.
Nice.
As you know, I've been on hiatus for the past few weeks because I've been traveling through the various multiverses, collecting people to help us in the Pop Shock podcast multiverse. To save us from the imminent threat.
Episode.
This is the worst episode of What If I've ever seen.
Yeah.
The most low budget version of What If.
Exactly. And if you want to help us in the Pop Shock podcast multiverse, smash that like and subscribe button. Tell your friends about this podcast where three guys have decided last minute to pretend to be different versions of themselves from different universe. It's great. It's a good time. We have fun here.
Like us in every universe.
Exactly. There we go. That's it.
Like Doctor Strange said.
Or on different universes, just play it from the background.
Exactly, yeah. Just make sure we get our multiversal cable values up. Anyway, if you want to start off with the news of the week, Dan, what is your news story?
My news story is, guess what? It's about Silent Hill because
unbelievable.
This game's haunting my dreams and it has been for the past, I don't know, it feels like the past decade. So, in case folk aren't aware, Silent Hill was a big series in like, I don't know, 20 years ago to like between 15 and 20 years ago. Silent Hill was huge. First one was in PS1, second one was in PS2, it was iconic, and then the series kind of went off a cliff after that. But it was one of Konami's biggest franchises. Konami being Konami have mistreated it for years, and fans have been demanding a new game. In 2014, we got PT, which was a playable teaser from Hideo Kojima and Guillermo del Toro, which was terrifying. It was such a kind of lesson in how you can make just a corridor and some furniture utterly horrifying with just sound effects and voice acting and lighting effects and stuff. Really, really well done. And people were excited for that full game. It was going to be starring Norman Reedus, and then Kojima had that big fallout with Konami and the game got cancelled, and he went on to do Death Stranding. But there's been rumours since then that there's actually two Silent Hill games in development. Apparently, one of them is going to be a kind of first person, like PT style, or like Resident Evil 7 and 8 style, kind of first person horror, and the other one is going to be like a traditional third person, kind of like the old days of Silent Hill. One of them has been heavily rumoured that Bloober team, who made Most famously, they made. Hold on, I'll tell you because I've got the article here. Layers of Fear in the Blair Witch game. So there's been rumors. They were rumored for years to work with Konami, and away, even when it was just a rumor, people were like, "Oh, they're going to do a Silent Hill game." And then I think last year, 2021, sometime, it was confirmed that they had signed a partnership to work on a game for Konami. So it's pretty set in stone that that could possibly be Silent Hill, and some images have leaked from that game. They were put up on the reason that I think this is legit. They were put up on Twitter by a leaker called what was his name? Aesthetic Gamer, aka Dusk Golem. So Dusk Golem put this up on Twitter and said Silent Hill leak. There's a lot that I'm not sharing for now that I do know. This is from a relatively new source for me, but I have been given more than enough proof to believe them. This is not the only Silent Hill game in development. They also mentioned that in the tweet, and then it was 4 photographs, which kind of look reminiscent of like Resident Evil 7, to be honest. Like they have that sort of look to them, but the room's been trashed and I don't know, just the horrible environments. But this tweet was then hit by a DMCA by Konami, so that has got people leading to believe that this is actually real.
Or it's got some sort of validity, at least in terms of
when you go into the tweet now, you've got the media not displayed icon as the only thing that comes up. So unless you've got a screenshot, then
as we know,
but the images are on Google. So if you want to look for them,
as we know, in an alternate universe somewhere out there, Dan, me and you once talked about a weird conspiracy theory in relation to Silent Hill.
Yeah. So that was abandoned. I'll link my article on this below because that did mention abandoned. The rumor is what I believed to be the case if Abandon was a Silent Hill game. There's a rumor that Abandon is actually a Kojima Productions game, and he's using an acronym or a pseudonym, a fake name to develop it. But I don't know if that's true or not, or if this is just some indie developer taking the piss. But the rumor, what I believed, was that these were the two games that Bloober Team. These images that have been leaked is from one of the Silent Hill games, and the other one is abandoned. If that is indeed a Silent Hill game. But yeah, there's no proof of that, and we haven't heard anything for Abandoned for ages now, so who knows? But yes, Bloober Team working with them and this coming out just now is quite an interesting time because Jeff Grubb, he's a kind of industry leaker that does a podcast. He spoke about this and said that there's a chance that this could be a PlayStation exclusive, the Silent Hill game. And he also mentioned that Sony are rumored to be doing a show sometime in June that hasn't actually been announced yet. I don't know if it's going to be an event or just a live stream state of play or whatever. So there's rumors that this game, the Silent Hill game, is going to be shown at that. There's also rumors that what's his name? Jeff Keighley. He's doing his summer games show in place of E3. Normally that happens before, just like the days before E3, but this has actually got E3 spot now. So this is kind of going to be the biggest gaming event of the summer now because there's no E3. So there's rumours that it could be shown there as well.
Do you feel, Dan, that maybe if all this kind of PlayStation exclusivity from Sony, obviously with the Silent Hill stuff, is them trying to reclaim some of the thunder that was kind of stolen by all the Microsoft stuff that's happened recently with the acquisitions? You think they're maybe trying to play catch up almost with their competitors and trying to bring in the next big thing to draw them towards the PS5?
So PS5 kind of dominated the start of the generation, and then people slowly but surely got PS5s, and the hype was there, and then they realised, oh shit, there's no actually any games for this. Why did I buy one of these? And that is, honestly, I've got a few pals that have got PS5s that feel that way. I don't know how Jerd feels about his. I know that Jerd missed PS4, so he's got a fair backlog to go through.
I'm happy out for it.
I think it's the same issue that the PS4 actually suffered as well, because I remember getting a PS4 when it first came out, within the first 2 months of launch, and I was still on my 360 for at least almost a year afterwards, because there was not that many games
any console when it launches, I rarely buy a console on launch now because of that. Rarely there's like a solid first party lineup like day one. But I do feel like PS5's been out for a long, long time. It's an expensive console. It's extremely hard to get your hands on one. Is it worth chasing one down when there's no games? That's the thing. Like, PS4 was kind of the same as you're saying, Mass, but it was a lower price point and they were much easier to get your hands on them. So is it worth the extra effort to get something there's not even really any games for? Do you know what I mean? That's the issue with PS5 for me. But We'll see. I mean, what you're saying about the Xbox comparison. So PlayStation announced that they had 25 exclusives in development at the start of the generation. We've still not seen what those 25 exclusives are. We know
Yeah.
of some of them. We know that like Knights of the Old Republic, I'm pretty sure that's exclusive. The remake of that. You've got the Wolverine game. Like we know some. Obviously, Horizon.
Wolverine, Spider-Man, God of War, fucking
the recent
Spider-Man.
the recent Horizon game that came out was one of them. Like we know of a few, right, but there's still like at least like 12 or 15 games unaccounted for. And what Sony said at the time was that these aren't like wee shitty indie games; they are all AAA experiences.
Titles.
So
Well, I mean,
could
Silent Hill would
this
make sense.
could this Silent Hill game be one of them? Who knows? But yeah, it could line up. I'd like it. I'd enjoy it. I want to see more of this.
Well, it's definitely something to keep an eye on, and we're probably going to be talking about it in the coming weeks and months as it is, especially with Dan and the obsession with Silent Hill. And if we all turn up Mundard one day with Silent Hill scrolled over the walls, you know who to look for. With that being said, Jerd, what is the news story that has captured your eye this week? Do you get it? Eye? Because eye patch.
You're the one with the captured eye. So yeah, there was an announcement that was first just leaked as not leaked, kind of like teased, because it did come from Marvel. That they just basically listed writers and artists. So I think it's half and half, but I'm not fully sure. Although I do recognize, I probably recognize more of the writers than I do the artists. So it was just put out first as this being amazing, and the title, the font for amazing, is like the spot. I think it could be Amazing Fantasy, where it's the same. Well, it is end up being Amazing Fantasy because they, after a couple of days, they give the full information. So they basically just put a post saying something amazing is coming this August. And the writers are Neil Gaiman, Armindo Iannucci. I'm saying that wrong probably, but the fucking Alan Partridge, and what else has he written? Like the thick of it, mainly the Alan Partridge. Right. The idea that the Alan Partridge writer is going to be writing something for Spider-Man sounds amazing. Pun intended. Jonathan Hickman, who I don't think has really written much Spider-Man, but I'll come back to that in a bit. Dan Slott, who's like pretty synonymous to Spider-Man from his 10-year run. Ho-Che Anderson, who I don't know. Kurt Busiek, who's written like Marvel's, Avengers run with the recently deceased. What's his name again? The guy who just passed?
George Perez,
yeah. And then I think we're into the artist is Anthony Falcone, or Falcone, as we've talked about before. That's the name, I don't know if to say the spelling.
Calzone, yeah.
Rainbow Rowell, sorry.
That's a great name.
Rainbow Rowell, yeah, definitely.
Artist, you know, no? Or maybe name. She or they, maybe, I don't know. It's not really telling of that. Jim Cheung, I'm probably saying that wrong too, who I'm pretty sure I know of as an artist. Oliver Copiel, who I love. I think he's a fantastic artist. Michael Cho, who I don't know, and Terry Dodson, who I don't know, even though those names are very familiar to me.
Rainbow Rowell is actually an author who has done The Runaways.
Oh, that's an author. Okay, so I thought it was half and half.
They are an author. And she has done a bunch of young adult books as well. But she has, in terms of comic experience, has done a lot of the runs on The Runaways. And
The Runaways was decent. I used to quite like that.
And also Miss Marvel as well. So she's got quite a good experience in terms of comic book backlog as well.
Yeah, but then like so they kind of listed those names. I thought it was more half and half, writer and artist.
I think it might all be writers, to be honest.
Well, Oliver Copiel is an artist. I know that for a fact. Okay. And Jim Cheung, I thought was an artist because I think they did. Or maybe I'm confusing. Jim Cheung it's very, I think is in my mind is very similar to Oliver Copiel. They would have worked on like House of M and like what's the Wanda story after House of M?
Avengers Disassembled.
Yep, that's assembled.
No, the family, something to do with the Young Avengers, and it's Wanda and it's Doom, which I think that there was talks of, because wasn't there talks of like Wanda getting her own trilogy, MCU trilogy, but let's not say anything about Doctor Strange, but maybe that's been contradicted by that. The family something, or the Children's Crusade is what it's called. So basically, they just released that with Amazing, but then they kind of confirmed it's Spider-Man with an image drawn by John Romita Jr., who doesn't appear to be involved in this. Well, maybe if they haven't released all the artists just yet. But he is on the main Spider-Man book now, so maybe that's why. But it's for this year's Spider-Man 60th anniversary. There was a book from a couple of years ago that I may have mentioned on an earlier podcast called Spider-Man Full Circle, which was like a pass the baton story where one writer and artist, they had like a writer summit with a bunch of writers and artists. Then one writer and artist started, and then they'd pass it on to the next person. They'd just continue the story kind of in an improvisational way. And so that was like a mini series. I first came to it as just being one book, so I don't know if it released issue by issue. I would imagine it's something like that. It's maybe it could be a return to that, where it's like a pass the baton story, or it's a mini. I'd say probably a mini series of single issues by different teams, or who knows? Maybe all the writers are kind of working together to kind of put the story together. Yeah, look, I'm always happy to see more just like a full Spider-Man book you can just read and pick up, and you don't have to have much prior knowledge and such.
So I'm a little bit out of touch in terms of what's currently going on in the Spider-Man comics. Because last time I read, it was Spider-Man Beyond, that it was Ben Reilly was back in the seat as Spider-Man because Peter Parker was in a coma because of radiation poisoning. Which I know is still fairly recent, but
well, so that was written by I think a couple of people, or mainly just Zeb Wells, or became just Zeb Wells. I think there was maybe a team of people writing on it. So now there's been a new relaunch with John Romita returning and Zeb Wells. So the first issue of that came out in April. So I guess we're getting close. Well, it'll be a while before the second issue is out, and that seems to be kind of like a return to the. It feels like they're going for the return to the John Romita Jr. JMS run. Michael MJS.
A little bit in terms of
they're kind of like going back, because I think like between Nick Spencer and the Beyond run, they were kind of bringing Peter and MJ back together. So the first issue shows Peter, and the tease for it was Peter in a crater with his suit all kind of destroyed and just like screaming no. And then it's like 6 months later, everyone's really pissed off with him. And May had to like sell her house because of his hospital bills. He was living with I think it's Randy Robertson, which is
Boomerang, right?
No. Well, yes, also, but is it Joe Robertson, who's the black guy who works with J. Jonah Jameson, who may be like the full editor, the head editor of the Bugle now, but Robbie Robertson, and then his son is Randy Robertson, who's been brought in again, and he's been kind of like on again, off again, Peter's sporting character, like, and he's going to Peter's like, look, I basically have to pay the rent for 3 people because I guess our other housemate died.
Because he was a supervillain. He was a supervillain, wasn't he? He was a fucking.
Boomerang was, but then he had like there was like the Sinister War, which there was multiple. I didn't read it myself; I just skimmed it. But I kind of wasn't that taken with the Nick Spencer one, even though I tried to get into it. I think Nick Spencer wanted to do certain things and he wasn't allowed to do them, and like he was trying to kind of he was going for basically a rewrite of One More Day. But the way it is now, Randy Robertson is in the first issue was asking Tombstone, the villain who's like he's a biker in PS4 game. He was a big part of the Spectacular Spider-Man series, but he's dating his daughter, who I think is a Beetle, which is basically like an Iron Man type suited villain who was first a guy but now is a girl.
Is it John Paul, George Ringo?
I don't get that at all. Sorry.
One of the Beatles.
All right. John. I thought you said John Paul.
George Ringo.
Or George Ringo. Oh, now I get you. Excuse me. Yeah. This multiverse version of me is even slower than usual.
You don't have Beatles in your universe.
Yeah. We're also the
yesterday universe as well.
The same universe. Yeah. I love the dumbness of that. And it seems to be kind of bringing it back to the Michael J. Straczynski run, which I fucking loved. I was surprised to see him not being involved, but I guess editorial kind of. I think he took his name off One More Day, so maybe I know he wrote Tor after Spider-Man, but I don't know if he's done much Marvel stuff since. So maybe there's a bit of bad blood, and he's like, I'm not fucking touching Spider-Man again with a 10-foot pole. So yeah, this should be we'll come to see, but this should be, I'd imagine, just kind of like 60th anniversary of Spider-Man. Let's get some really interesting writers. You can just pick it up, and it'll be a fun book. Because I personally think Spider-Man, say in contrast to like Batman and maybe like in Marvel in total, I don't think Spider-Man has as many. Now, my local comic book shop guy who's a big Spider-Man fan, would kind of disagree, but I don't think Spider-Man has as many graphic novels that you can just pick up and read, which I think Marvel could do. Now, there's been some like is it Zeb Wells or who did the Spider-Man
life story? Chip Zdarsky.
Zdarsky, I think is usually how I hear it.
Zdarsky.
He did a life story, and he did Spider-Man: The Dark Shadow, which is like the 5 or 6 issue What If. I think 6 or 7 if you include. There's a J. Jonah Jameson add-on to life story. But yeah, they've been working on it. They've been taking up some other books that are just like maybe a different universe, as fitting in with our team for today, where you can just pick up the Spider-Man run. So, yeah, I've got the first issue. It's my first Spider-Man book that I've had in a pull list in a real-life comic book shop. I only had my first comic in a pull list this year. So, yeah, I'll definitely, if it's a graphic novel, I'll pick it up straight away. I like all of those writers. Jonathan Hickman did actually work on that Pass the Baton story, The Full Circle, which I don't think he'd really done Spider-Man before.
I picked up recently a copy, I think it was like Volume 5 of Hickman's Avengers, when it was the Dark Avengers. Because I know Hickman's Avengers is really good. I also picked up Bendis' Avengers as well, but I don't know how I feel either. We'll see how that goes.
Have you not read that before?
I haven't. No, I caught the tail end of some of the runs, because I remember reading Dark Avengers really younger. Do you remember the Panini books that they used to come up with?
Mm-hmm.
The Panini, yeah. I read a few of them when I was younger, and it was a mixture of Dark Avengers, New Avengers, Secret Wars, like all that kind of stuff, like back in the day, like all those ones.
Oh, if I was you, I'd go right back to Disassembled.
Yeah, I need to, because I've read House M as well, and I remember House M.
And I think even the Secret War, which I have a copy of somewhere there.
Yeah. I don't enjoy. Is it New Avengers Breakout? That's my least favorite Bendis.
Really?
Marvel book. Yeah, I went back to read that recently. Actually,
I picked this up for really cheap.
Really didn't enjoy it.
Volume 2 of the complete collection of.
Well, that's a bit into it.
Yeah, so it's not too far though. I think it's about 6 issues, something like that.
Oh, I love that run, because like it brings Spider-Man and Wolverine into the Avengers, and I've been starting reading that. I went back. I was kind of trying to go before the Michael J. Straczynski run.
One of my favorite stories.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah,
that's a solid book.
Which is, I love it so much. Jason Aaron's running fucking
probably from around that time too. Yeah,
so good.
I know, I love the Bendis run. I thought it was great crack back then. It feels a bit, I don't know, as someone says, like there's bits even in Disassembled where Doctor Strange comes up and people are like, "Who are you?" And they're like, "Been here for fucking around for 20, 40 years, like I'm Doctor Strange, like." Or he's like, "Oh, Doctor Strange, I've met you before," or something like that. It's kind of weird, but I guess it was more when they started blending the universe together, because after that New Avengers run, the whole universe just became very blended. Like, there was events every couple of months.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's for my news on the Spider-Man. So, Amazing Fantasy Spider-Man 1000.
Which is a bit of a mouthful, wasn't it?
Actually, thinking of that, I think there was a Marvel 1000 where it was just a load of short stories. So it could be just that, but based on Spider-Man.
I think maybe we could have top off the news of this week. Probably keep it Marvel and keep it within the multiverse of madness. No, but we have recently just came out that Benedict Cumberbatch actually turned down a role in the MCU before Doctor Strange, and that was in Thor: The Dark World as Malekith. Thank God that happened.
The best decision anyone's ever made.
Ever made.
The question is, had Cumberbatch taken that role, do you reckon that Joaquin Phoenix would have been Doctor Strange? Because he was the number 2. He almost got it before Cumberbatch was cast.
Honestly,
potentially. I would be surprised to see.
I can't imagine. Like, Cumberbatch is still like a kind of credible actor, but Joaquin Phoenix is such a kind of non-franchise actor, that the idea of him doing as many Marvel movies just doesn't compute.
I
Do you know what I mean?
I don't think he would have taken it because of the long term contract stuff.
The commitment, and I
Um,
don't think he'd want to. He may, but he might like that's the thing with Marvel. Like, you don't want to be taking on an actor for a big role like that and then going, "Oh, he doesn't want to come back." So I'm sure that comes into the reasoning. Like, and especially we've seen it in recent years that, like, I heard a quote of his that was like, "No, I want a big. While I appreciate being invited to the party, I want to hold out for a meteor role."
Yeah.
He really seems to like the character. Like, even when he's on, like, one of my favorite pods is Mark Maron, and like, he loves shitting over them and all this. But like, sometimes it's really awkward where he's shitting over them to the actor. Like, I think he had it with Paul Rudd, where he was just like, oh, like, I love Mark Maron, but sometimes, like, geez, Mark, chill out. Like, he was just kind of like, really, it's nearly coming across rude the way he speaks about the films. He's like, he assumes that they're just like talking it up because it's a paycheck. But like, Benedict Cumberbatch, I think maybe Thanos, no, I can't think of his fucking name.
Josh Brolin.
Yeah, he kind of like, because he's kind of a cool dude, and Maron seemed to really vibe with him. I think he kind of got his vibe in. But like, Benedict in that interview was like, "Oh no," it's like, look, there's a lot of money to them, but they're fun films, and like, really getting that idea across to him. But he seems really invested in it. And like, I think there was another quote from him saying he would happily do another 10 years of Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
So what else I think is interesting about this? Obviously, thank God that didn't go ahead and happen. But Jessica Chastain was originally cast as Christine Palmer in the first Doctor Strange movie, and her exact words were, "I want to hold out to play something with a cape. I want to play a superhero." And that's when they cast Rachel McAdams. So that's interesting. And then you've also got the fact that Elizabeth Olsen has been speaking this week about having to miss out on kind of more Oscar-worthy roles for the sake of the MCU.
The
and
Lobster
she doesn't
specifically.
The Lobster, yeah.
It was very interesting because if you watch previous interviews with her, she also is really into the comics and stuff. Like, she mentions stuff like House of M. She knows like a little bit of her, like she knows
back
the
in her Age of Ultron, back
in her Age of Ultron interview when she first,
To be fair, I watched the clip I seen her talking about it. She wasn't being like bitter about it. She was being quite matter of fact. She's like, doing this means that you can't do these other movies. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like I wasn't like, oh, I could, because that's shitty Marvel film. Like, it wasn't that sort of attitude. It was very matter of fact. Like, it's part of it is knocking back these kind of big, potentially career altering roles for the sake of a franchise. It's you need to weigh up. There's pros and cons. Do you know what I mean?
I've seen her say in interviews that she, like, when she was in like acting college, I think she was called herself like a study Nazi or something. She just gets she's so nerdy about all of this stuff that she just really gets into it. And so, like, maybe when she might have, like, maybe she did, but like, she may not have read the comics prior to being involved. But like, she just went back and fucking read a load of shit. And I guess maybe as a more classically trained actor, she may have been like looking for like, well, what can I make if it's a superhero film, it's a franchise, what can I make from this, to where can I get to with this to make it more interesting than
Just talking about actors reading the comics, I don't know if it was in the chat, maybe one of you sent it, but I seen an image this week that was Benedict Cumberbatch dressed in full Doctor Strange costume, buying comic books in a comic book shop.
Have you not? I seen that ages ago. It was incredible.
Yeah, I think
that's when he was
I think
shooting
I was
the first
before the first movie.
It was he was shooting the first film, and he went into a random comic book shop and picked up, I think, a copy of Doctor Strange: The Oath. I think it was. He did.
That'd be nuts if you were standing in the queue and he was behind you. He'd be like, "What's going on?"
Yeah, man.
But I think, I mean, honestly, I as we know, he didn't take that role as Malekith, and for the better, because Thor: Dark World is one of the weaker MCU films.
And
arguably its best bit comes from a scene in Endgame where we've
they revisited and given it a bit of props.
We canonically know that Rocket sticks a needle in Jane Foster's fucking just.
I like the Chris Evans cameo.
Yeah.
In that movie.
Yeah, that's very fun.
There's
it's not people really like to shit on it. It's fine. It's just not amazing.
Like Jesus, man, I find it really hard to go back and watch some of them Phase 1, Phase 2 films. Like, any of them, I'm just like,
yeah.
I tried to do a Marvel rewatch there a while ago, and I think I only got about 3 in it. just like, ugh. No, I really would like to go back to the first Avenger just to give that another.
I like the first Avenger. I know
I
people say
paid
it's
no.
really boring, but I like it.
Me and my mate just talk shite the whole. We didn't even give it a chance. We were just like, this.
It's
But
because
I felt if we couldn't give it a chance, we should have been able to draw our attention.
it's because it's really a war film, and it's an interesting thing to have in the superhero genre, and I liked it. I thought it is a bit, it can drag, but I've seen it so many times since when I'm younger. I'm a really big fan of it.
And Joe Johnson, it's very The Rocketeer, what he'd done before.
Yeah.
And just on the Doctor Strange cast, like Christopher Eccleston, like seemed to be really fucking. I think that turned him off kind of franchise films, like.
Well, I was going to say that again. I know that we're saying thank God that Benedict Cumberbatch didn't take it, but it is also a waste of Christopher Eccleston because he's a phenomenal actor, and now that's him being kind of used. You know, I mean, they can double cast. Like Jimon Honsu's been in it twice, right? He's in
no,
3 times.
Especially with makeup characters.
Yeah. They could, and multiverse. I guess they could also use that excuse, but I don't know. It's a shame.
And we've seen people come back, but at the same time, a lot of the early films they kill the villain and they waste like they got some really high class
Jeff
actors.
Bridges, man, like
Guy Pearce.
Spoilers for Moon Knight, but Ethan Hawke. Jesus Christ, like what a waste.
Yeah, they went back to that.
Yeah.
I was hoping they wouldn't do that. I don't know why they did. Like,
Me too.
Yeah, I think for a long time the complaints of the villains of Marvel, like I'm just bring them back and you'll get more out of them.
Go and watch your Moon Knight finale discussion. Spoilers, we didn't like it.
Yeah.
I look at if you had Loki, if Loki was killed off in the first film, we never would like. I think that's and he's like, oh, Loki's the greatest character. A lot of that is down to the way he's written and the just Tom Hiddleston.
The fact he isn't killed off immediately after his first appearance and gets 4 films to actually progress as a human being.
Yeah, you get a chance to get to know him. Like, I think any character could be like a fucking Abomination could be coming back, and everyone's like, oh my god! Like the fact that they just return to anybody seems to give people so much hype.
Spoiler, hang on, spoiler alert for Doctor Strange Body of Madness. Multiverse Madness, you guys obviously talked about it, just gonna say it now in case if you haven't seen it. Black Bolt.
Yeah.
Bring him back.
Fucking Andrew Garfield.
Yeah.
Look how much love came back for him just to give him a chance with a better script and better performance.
Yeah.
Like I think Marvel are willing to do a lot of things at the moment. And I obviously wasn't on the Doctor Strange episode, and we'll probably get to it when we'll talk about for your consideration, what we could have been reading and watching and listening to. But yeah, no, I definitely think that you're right. The big issue of the villain problem is something that's going to hopefully be resolved, or it's going to continue to fucking stem if they keep killing off villains every 2 films. You know, that's how it is.
The Doctor Strange episode and the Moon Knight episode will be linked below if you want to watch them.
With that being said, I think that's kind of done with the main news articles of the week, unless you guys have anything else you kind of want to throw in there to kind of top it off.
A little pop. Raimi said he loves Spider-Man, would love to work on Spider-Man again, loves Tom Holland, but if he directed another Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire would break his neck. So I don't know, like there's a lot of complications there, but if that's pushing for a Tobey 4 man, I'll take that.
Yeah, it could be an interesting one.
I'm gonna take a chance here, boys. I think the snipers went away that's outside, so I'm gonna take my hats off. So if a bullet goes flying through the window and explodes my head, then you know why.
Live on camera, he's breaking.
At least it'll.
You're breaking it. Yeah, this is a lawbreaker.
He's starting the revolution in his multiverse.
Viva la revolution!
I didn't print the pamphlets.
Bastard, he has the eye patch off. It's all falling. Our multiverses are falling apart.
Exactly, it's all becoming.
Incursions are happening everywhere.
I take this off, but it's real hair, so I can't.
I told you mine is for depth perception. Like I can't see it in my right eye at the moment. That's why we're.
You're not driving. You're just talking. Why do you need depth perception?
Look, I'm telling you,
missing the mouse and shit. Like,
tell me. But with that being said, we're going to move on to the next section of the podcast, which is for your consideration. What you guys have been watching, reading, looking at, whatever you've been doing this week, whatever you've been consuming in the wider media landscape. And we're going to start off with Dan. What have you been watching, reading, and
so I think I've been speaking about this last few weeks, but I have been playing through the Arkham games again. So yesterday I finished Arkham City, and that ending is still brilliant. It still hits just as hard. That point where
Did you do the achievement where you do the Catwoman one first and then you do the Batman?
the Catwoman first.
So you can get an achievement. So in Arkham City at the end of the game, or well, towards the end anyway, you have that thing where Catwoman is given that briefcase.
Yeah.
She has the option to go save Bruce.
Oh yeah, I walked away.
Yeah, you walk away, you get the achievement, it rewinds back in time, and then you get to do the same thing.
Yeah,
It's
but do you know something? See, the reason I walked away, and the reason I always walk away, even though I know it's not the actual end of the game, I genuinely believe that my version of Catwoman and my kind of headcanon would walk away. Do you know what I mean? Catwoman in my mind is the type of character that would leave him and would just go with money. Like at the end of the day, like she does care about Bruce, but she cares about herself and her money more. So that's to be honest, that would be more what's the word like legitimized with the source material. But yeah, the final scene of Mark Hamill's performance as he's dying as the Joker, and Batman tells him, "Do you want to know something funny? After all the shit you've done, I would have saved you." And then Mark Hamill just looks at me and goes, "That is pretty funny." And the two of them just laugh as he dies. It's iconic. And then that scene of him walking out holding
the Kid Enable thing with the
the reference to that paint at the start, and then Gordon just looks at Bruce and he's like, "What just happened?" And he doesn't say it, and he just walks past him because even though he's like the bane of his life, I don't know, Batman does feel a bit bad that the Joker's just died in front of him. Like you can tell that he is pretty broke up.
Dan, it's great in your multiverse that's where that series ended. It stopped at Arkham City. There was no more games.
There was no shitty Batmobile sections. Dumb
like,
twists with Jason Todd.
It's fantastic that in your universe that's how it works.
Was the end.
Like that's canonically the ending.
I have not. I've installed Arkham Knight, but I've not actually booted it up yet. It's a bit disappointing. It's annoying that that's the final game, like because the first two. It's like the Dark Knight trilogy. Because the first two are so good, you don't want to watch the third one. You don't want to play the third one.
I see when I first played it, I did actually enjoy Arkham. The Arkham Knight, I did enjoy it. But
the gameplay is great. The gadgets are great. The traversal is great. There's certain elements of that game that are phenomenal. The Batmobile sections are horrible, and the story is not great. But the actual moment-to-moment gameplay is a lot of fun.
I wish they just hadn't hidden the Jason Todd thing, because I remember. See when there's that cutscene where you find out it was him. I remember playing a PlayStation 4 and it says this section of recording has been blocked. I'm like, why? People fucking know that he's. Look,
people knew like as soon as you announced this character.
Oh, it's a character who's mysterious, who knows about Batman from his past.
Yeah. My favorite part though of the Arkham Knight game is when Joker starts appearing in Batman's head. I enjoy those sections.
People don't like it,
but fence and stuff, and he's just sitting in the corner like, "What you doing, Batman?" and talk to him. I like that shit. No, it's a sequel.
Because you got
Arkham Origins as the prequel.
Ah, okay. So Arkham Knight is the canonically chronologically.
Suicide Squad is following on from the Suicide Squad game. Is following on from Arkham Knight, apparently.
There's technically four. There's 4 Arkham games, but only 3 produced by Rocksteady. So there's 3 that are a trilogy because they're made by the same developers, and then there's the Warner Brothers Montreal, which is Origins, which is
and that team, the guys that did Origins, they're doing Gotham Knights.
Yes,
which has just been pushed back and. It's not coming out for PS4. It's just coming out for next generation.
Does not look good.
The previous Xbox
does not look good.
But they've been having a TV show of it, which is that kind of along the lines of Warner Brothers consolidating everything.
Could be, but the gameplay I've seen, the trailers and stuff, it just does not look.
I know. I'm not normally interested in DC, but I don't care about that at all.
So. I've been playing the Arkham game, and I've also been playing Call of Duty Warzone this week. They have put Godzilla and King Kong in the game because why not at this point? But it's, do you know something? The first time I played it, it's cool. You land, you jump in a biplane, you start, machine gunning these big monsters, and the King Kong's throwing rocks at you, and Godzilla's getting his atomic blast. But Godzilla doesn't come out the water; he just hangs about in the water outside of the map. King Kong he starts off on the top of the mountain and then he kind of jumps about a bit, so that's fine. But see at the top, right? We were actually talking about this last night. It was at Pal's last night, and we were talking about my pal's a UI designer, so we were talking about the UI in Call of Duty and how busy it is. So at the top, either above or below your compass, you've got the wee icon for Godzilla and Kong, and through the match, they slowly move towards each other. So in my head, the first time I played it, I'm like, well, this is going to end with them fighting. Like, surely at the end, when normally the gas would come in, this must end with the two actually clashing. No, it just ends, and the winning team just drives away in a truck while Godzilla like tries to blast them. But Godzilla and Kong never fight at any point, and that was a real letdown. But yeah, it's fine. It's one of the things that once you play, the first time you play it, it's kind of novelty, and then you play it the second time, you're like, and then the third time you're like, okay, this is old already. So
Is that the same as the app? Because I sometimes play with my brother the app version. They were bringing in like Die Hard and
Yeah. They brought
So and
they brought in
Snoop Dogg.
Nakatomi Plaza and stuff.
on Warzone. They brought in like They had Rambo, John McClane, Eren Yeager from Attack on Titan,
Predator, Alien.
Predator. I think
Don't know if they did Predator.
Predator's in there. Predator's in there. I don't know about Alien.
They did the vampire one as well at Halloween.
Yeah, Ghostface.
Jigsaw. Yeah.
Michael Myers, I think, is there as well.
I think so.
Right?
Yeah. Hey, Snoop Dogg's in it now as well.
Snoop Dogg's in it as well. Yeah.
But yeah, it's Call of Duty Warzone. That's what it is. I still don't like that new map. I still miss the old map. But anyway,
good old Verdansk.
I also tried to watch a movie the other night and had to shut it off, and it was Michael Bay's Ambulance. I figured it would be an easy. It was quite late, and I was like, this will be a kind of easy watch. And I've got an inherent problem with Michael Bay, but just going in, it was awful. Like I'd heard this was kind of watchable. It's maybe his best since The Rock. I heard all this kind of stuff. Honestly, I watched the Ryan Reynolds one. Was it 13 Underground or something it was called? That was better. That was better than this. Yeah. That was. Ambulance doesn't know what it wants to be. Like, it doesn't know if it wants to be a kind of Heat type intense action film or if it wants to be a comedy. Because it's not funny, but you've got Jake Gyllenhaal overacting, and then you've got all the Michael Bay-isms, like the camera looking up from like knee height at the character, and extreme close-ups with not really focus on the character's face, like shaky cat, like just all the Michael Bay-isms just really got to me. And I lasted about 40 minutes, and I thought, nah, you're all right. I really tried to stick with it. There was several points that I could have switched off, kept on, and eventually I was like, I'm done. I put it off, and I ended up watching Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum's one, The Lost City, which is a dumb, slightly immature adventure film that was kind of funny, and it was fine. Like
it's a good watch. I've seen it as well.
Yeah,
it's quite fun.
It's Jumanji, but without The Rock and Kevin Hart, and instead it's Channing Tatum. And you've seen it before. It's or Jungle Cruise. Like it's a dumb action adventure film through the jungle. Like it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. It's a bit tired at this point, and it's a bit. But it's easy watching. See if you're tired or you've had a few drinks and you just want something easy, you don't know what to think about. Because I could have watched The Northman, and I was like, nah, I'm going to go with The Lost City instead. That's a lot easier on the old brain. So.
Speaking of The Northman, in terms of what I've kind of been watching and kind of listening to this week, so I know you guys talked about it on the other podcast, Doctor Strange. I went to go see that earlier this week or last week, whatever it was. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I liked all the Sam Raimi bits of the film. I felt like some of the reshoots were very jarring. And I really liked it as a self-contained story, but I can definitely understand why people don't like it. And I have lots of friends who think that it was definitely not the film that they were expecting, and they would definitely skip it on a rewatch.
Can you give us a rating out of 10?
I'd say a 7 or an 8. I think so. It's a solid film. And I've seen it 3 times in the opening weekend. So
Jesus,
I know. Yeah,
two was a lot for me.
Yeah.
I will say once.
I want to go see it the third time, and I noticed some things, such as when they open up the book of Ashanti, the Ashanti book, on the page that is open that falls to the ground and disintegrates, there's a giant star.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I mentioned that in our episode of the pod. So.
I noticed that after my third viewing. I'm like, that makes sense. Just that kind of corresponds to why Doctor Strange at the end tries to encourage America Chavez, which is kind of out of character for him, but I'm not going to go into deep anyway. Obviously, you guys did a great job of explaining it on the Doctor Strange pod anyway, and kind of giving a few minutes. But I thought yeah, definitely 7 or 8 out of 10, very solid film. But I also want to go see The Northman as well, which is a very, very brutal story. You like Hamlet? You like this? It's a really good film. It definitely deals with Norse mythology in quite an interesting and very psychological way. A lot of the stuff is definitely heavily implied throughout the film. It's not the film that I expected it to be when I was going in. I thought it was going to be proper kind of brutal action film. It's not. It's a lot more personal and kind of a lot more dark and even kind of,
Okay.
yeah. It's a lot different than what I thought it was going to be. I'll be honest.
Is it similar in any way to the Green Knight?
Yes.
Right.
That's, do you know what? Perfect. Very good. Yeah.
Good
Very
picking.
similar in some capacity. Yes. Yeah. Do you know what? Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I enjoyed the Green Knight.
Yeah, that was very good.
Yeah. Again, I feel like there's some bits that could be taken out of that film to make it go faster paced to the Northman. But again, probably like 7, 8 out of 10. Pretty really solid film. Really quite good. Quite enjoyable.
Is it your favorite Robert Eggers film that you've seen?
Do you know what? I actually don't. I'm not super familiar with Robert Eggers' filmography. I know of The Lighthouse.
Oh, you've not seen it? Have you seen The
I've not
Witch?
seen. I see The Witch a long time ago, and The Witch was a weird one.
Yeah.
Um,
That's it though, really. He hasn't done
Yeah,
any-
that's it. This is the third
yeah.
movie.
I think
Um,
yeah. The Witch I've
there's-
seen probably when I was far too young to watch it.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
like it makes me just so. It's strange for
I
me
know.
because you're like
See me say shit like
that was like 2 years ago or something, but
Yeah.
it wasn't. And
It
you're
was
younger than
7
me,
years
so
ago.
That's crazy. Yeah.
There's a rumor that his next movie is going to be Nosferatu. A
Yes,
remake of
That's-
Nosferatu, which
And
that's
I
it's
think
interesting.
it'll
been
be.
put on bricks, I think.
Yeah, well, it's
announced.
been put on hiatus, but I don't think it's completely cancelled.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
I think it was going to be his next one, and then he says something about how I don't know if there's something wrong with the script, and he's going to focus on another project and then go back to that or something along those lines.
Yeah. Apparently,
Well,
they wanted to make that for years.
I think a Nosferatu remake could be amazing. It's one of the
Yeah,
kind
especially
of,
with him behind it.
it's the first introduction of vampires in Western media and stuff like that. It's fantastic. It's really up there. I know Jerd was going to talk about it as well, but I did get a chance to go see Everything All at Once as well.
Mhm.
Which like 9 out of 10 movie. It's really, really, really good. That is the true multiverse of madness. That film,
More deserving of the title.
yeah, way more deserving in my opinion. But I definitely think I need to go watch that film again because it's just so
Yeah.
much. It was genuinely, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't expect hot dog fingers. That was fun.
Yeah. I think it's the kind of film, though, if you haven't seen it, it's probably not worth. You're better to go in completely blind.
Yes, yeah, fully, yeah.
You know it's a multiverse thing. I'd say just don't even like.
I've
just
seen
go
the
watch it.
trailer. I see the trailer. I still had no idea what's happening. I watched it and I got to the end of the film and I still had no idea what was happening, but I had more of an idea. No,
Yeah.
it was, yeah. I really enjoyed the concept of the way how the multiverse works in that film. And I think it's definitely one that you could definitely see applied to different kind of similar films of the genre. It's really quite fun.
I've been wanting to see that for a while. I've not had a chance to get to the cinema, and I keep looking at the streaming date for it when
It's
it
only
comes
just
to
came
video
out.
on demand.
It's not even out in the UK yet. It's out tomorrow.
Yeah, but it's been out in America for like ages.
Yeah.
And normally the VOD date's closer to that, but it keeps getting pushed back. It was meant to be out in May on VOD, and it's now been pushed back to June, I believe. So that's
It's getting wider release.
It's out in the UK tomorrow, I believe.
I don't know if it's just me, but I grudge paying to go and see a movie that's been out in America for a month. But I'm like, this movie's a month old. I'll just wait until it comes to VOD. I really don't like doing that.
I've got an Odeon card, so I went to go see. I got it for a limitless screen, so I was able to go see it a week early. That's how I went to go see it last week. Which I went to see it on Tuesday. Well, it's not even out until Tuesday.
If you've got an unlimited card, that's different. Obviously, you're not paying for it. But I'm not going to go and pay to see a film that's been out for a month in America.
I
don't get that logic at all. You haven't had the chance to see it otherwise.
Yeah, I'd say.
So if a film comes out worldwide everywhere, it's going to be roughly the same amount of time. Like, it's going to be 6 months before you can get it online. If a film goes out in America 2 months ago, and like I hate when they get it in like March, and we don't get it till like May.
It was really not. The Green Knight was really bad for that because that came out in like May in the UK, but it took till like fucking November or something like that, or August.
It's just that's not worth the money for me.
If they've limited releases and they're trying to work out deals to get wider releases, they're probably going to hold off on putting it out online.
Well, it's not good enough. I want it now.
And it only like it only got an Irish release date there on the 13th, I think. So I saw it was yesterday the 14th.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just one little thing on Multiverse of Mad. No, everywhere, everything, all at once. Short Round from the Indiana Jones series returns to acting in
Yeah.
it after many years. He said, I think the Week Planet Boys were talking about it because I that's what I love when it's a film that they review and I can't listen to their full review until I see the film. So Ki Hu Kwan, I'm probably saying that wrong. He basically from what they were saying, I think from interviews they gleaned from him that he just wasn't getting the opportunity. So he returned to China and he was like an assistant director and a fight choreographer. And not saying anything about it, but he's brilliant in it.
Oh, one of the best fight
Fantastic.
scenes. Oh, fantastic! Absolutely fantastic.
Really enjoyable in it. I enjoyed the whole cast.
Yeah, no, Michelle. I know what's her
Jamie.
name.
Michelle. Oh,
No. It's Jamie Lee Curtis is in it. She's fantastic.
The star of the fucking film. Michelle Yeoh.
Michelle. Yeah.
Fantastic in it. Unbelievable. Jamie Lee Curtis is great in it too.
And Stephanie, I think it's Stephanie Sue.
The daughter, is it?
The daughter, yep. And James Hong, who is
yes, yeah.
the old grandpa. He's in so many films you'll recognize. Big Trouble in Little China, Turning Red,
films.
Mulan. You'll know him. You'll know his face, even if you don't know his name.
I think was it him who just got his star on the Walk of Fame or on the
James Hong finally receives the star, becoming the oldest person. He's 93 years old.
Genie, he's great in it.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
He plays kind of his age. He looks mad until he comes in. His hair is all up. And like 25 million budget, which is fantastic. It's amazing. Watching. I just quickly go to what I watched. Multiverse of everywhere
all at once.
That's Multiverse of Madness to me. That's already been discussed. And I watched X last night. The fantastic, unbelievable.
Another
I've not
A24
seen it
film,
yet.
by the way. Yeah,
slasher film. Kind of was a sexploitation, I guess, but done modernly. Oh, the directors of the Daniels, the guys who did the Swiss Army Man.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Really good. Very simple story, just done very well. Gory.
And Kid Cudi's in it, isn't it?
I was just going to say there's an actor in it that I thought is that Kid Cudi? Because it's just I don't know. I don't think he normally has facial hair when he performs, but he has an afro in it because it's set in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
But at first I was like, oh, that's Kid Cudi, and I was like, no, I wasn't even sure. He just even then after I had to Google it, I was like, the fucking is Kid Cudi, but he doesn't come across. I think it might just because he's doing an accent, and he's nearly becoming as well known for being an actor as a rapper, more so than a rapper these days. But he normally I know is more recognizable in his films, and he just I guess just the afro, maybe the fact that he doesn't have facial hair in this, and the accent he does, he's not as recognizable in it, and I had to struggle to see it was him. I thought it was great, really good, and then. Which can kind of bring us into our topic, really. I think I've been playing Resi 3 on the PS5 with the PS4 game, but I guess it was so cheap to actually buy it when it was full price. Great crack. It's the kind of game where you have to Resident Evil is normally you have to conserve your ammo, so I was very aware of that and having an absolute nightmare with playing Resi 3 as a kid. I had a sleepover with my friends, and one of my friends played along on my save. And got towards the end of the game without picking up this particular cog. So I had to go back through the map, and God. Nemesis had already been released. And I got back to the point of getting the cog, and I was trying to make my way back to where I was, but he was popping in every... Now, I don't remember it. That's kind of just the way I remember it. But he was popping in every thing, and I had no way to get past him.
Richard, have you played the remake of 2?
Me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because I think the remake of 2 is a far better version of... Because 3 is okay, the remake of it, but it's not as long, and was a bit overpriced, wasn't it?
Well, where am I now? I'm at the hospital, and I'm back with Jill. And I don't know if there's much left.
There's not. It's quite quick, I've so heard.
Yeah, it's usually short.
For those, by the way, the topic of this week is Multiversal Media, which is basically... The idea we kind of came up with is, if you like this thing, what is something that is similar in tone, similar in vibe, that you should watch or listen or play or kind of look at after Then you kind of, that kind of, I assume that's kind of what we're going with, because you were talking about Resident Evil 3, and you had
Yeah,
kind of a few examples of things that are similar in vibe and kind of maybe the influences
yeah.
that those other things had on this kind of property, which is why.
So like different, if you're playing something, you're like, I want to watch a film that's kind of like that, or if you're reading something and I want to watch a film that's kind of like that, or maybe I want to read a comic that's kind of like that. So yeah, Resident Evil, we've talked about it many times in the pod before. It's, I guess, the closest pairing you could put to it is the George Romero films, and probably more Dawn of the Dead than Night of the Living Dead, because Night of the Living Dead is a little bit more of a softer story, but it's zombies. It's slow shuffling zombies that require headshots. So of course, if it's in the Resident Evil remakes, they require many headshots. That's something I'm doing where if I don't get a zombie in enough headshots or take too many bites, I just reload and go back to it. I think two, especially the remake, when it's kind of got that. Well, I guess Dawn of the Dead is the 70s, but then I don't know. It's obviously very heavily set in the 90s, but the remake keeps that 90s setting, and I think it's definitely during the pandemic. I got far more into horror films and watching lots of basically if there's zombies and a kind of John Carpenter kind of soundtrack coming in over the end, or it's John Carpenter style soundtrack coming in. I'm loving that. So yeah, Resident Evil I think is a great pairing with those zombie films. Even Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead, the remake, is pretty good. It's probably to me his best film. I don't think it feels anything too Zack Snydery off it. So Resident Evil brings in a lot of stuff from different media. I think even like if you go look at Resident Evil 4, there's the Spanish guy. His death scene is an absolute mirroring of Bishop's death in Aliens. It's the tail of the monster thing coming up right through his chest. So Resident Evil kind of it's heavily steeped in that kind of B-movie vibe of, I don't know. And I guess it's 90s, it's grimy. That's more so when you're looking at 2 and 3, the remakes. But like the games originally that's what they were based in. And then the first one, I guess, is a little bit more, Resident Evil is maybe a bit more paired with Night of the Living Dead because you're just in the house.
Yeah.
So that's my first. So a film that, like, if you're playing Resident Evil and you want to watch something that's good, you can go through all of the Dawn of the Dead.
Don't watch the Resident Evil films.
That doesn't exist in
my
universe.
Don't go into them. Yeah,
we're talking. This is my universe. There is no terrible Resident Evil film that came out last year with.
Yeah, that for some reason put in 1 and 2.
We didn't speak about that in news, but we'll touch on it just now. So the Mila Jovovich Resident Evil films are bad. That Welcome to Raccoon City thing was bad. But they're doing a series which is set in the future. And what's his name? Is it Lance Reddick, the guy from John Wick? Yeah. So it's his kids that are grown up, I think. Like, because when you see him, he works for Umbrella, like in the current day, like 2022 or whatever. And then I take it the apocalypse happens, and then we jump to like 2030, 2040 or something.
Do you know why the apocalypse happens? Because they have a pill called Joy that they give to people to stop people with antidepressants and depression, and it's actually filled with a T virus.
Nice.
So
2022.
This is set in the future. So there's a new Raccoon City. I guess Raccoon City, as per the games, happened. They rebuild, and then there's more zombies.
I don't know. I don't know if this is the first outbreak, if this is just a remake. You know, the 90s thing never happened, and this is the first outbreak. I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't really know the details.
I was under the impression that there was a new Raccoon City in it.
Right.
So it's been rebuilt after it.
So is this a sequel to the games or the Mila Jovovich ones? Or
No, it's just it's a Netflix kind of thing. I don't think it's connected to anything really in particular.
Well, I think it's kind of, my understanding is kind of like Watchmen, where the Watchmen comics are set after. The Watchmen TV show is set
after the comics.
X amount of time from the comics. Was that Welcome to Raccoon City Netflix production or no?
No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't. I don't think. No,
you just think if they're going to make properties based on Resident Evil,
they were so almost comic accurate with it. They were so almost video game accurate with it, and it could have been amazing, and then it was just a bit shit. Apparently,
the sets were amazing. The set design, whoever done the set design, that movie deserves
the casting was apparently pretty not amazing, but like the people, when you look at the cast, you're like, oh my god, that is the cast from the video game.
Chris Redfield was well cast, but
the guy who plays Wesker. Robbie Mel, yeah, it's Robbie Mel, yeah.
Yeah.
The character versions though just didn't line up. Like Leon being like that scene where he says, "Oh, I bet you're wondering why I became a cop," and he
Me
goes,
too.
"So am I." And me too.
Yeah,
And he just walks
yeah.
away. Like, yeah, it's a horrible, terrible film.
Yeah, and it's just a change around that kind of stuff. I like the girl from Skins as Claire Redfield.
Yeah.
I seen a recent film with her with something to do with
I mean,
alligators.
there's literally fucking Luther
Yeah,
from
the-
Umbrella Academy as well, is on it. He plays
Crawl.
Wesker. Yeah.
You're thinking of Crawl, Jerd.
Yes, I didn't know what that was, but I thought it was fantastic. It was like
Yeah.
a throwback film to just like creature feature. So yeah, I always thought she was great. I just think like if they're gonna make some Resident Evil properties, just make one. Like especially for that film, don't throw the first and second game in if you've such a little budget. Why not
Yep.
make the first film where you can just have a small budget?
And inside of a mansion, yeah. That's
Yeah, but I think the writing seems to be probably the biggest issue with it, was it? Or
Yep.
I haven't seen it. Then, and I don't know about direction. Were the performance is bad, or would you think it was just a script that was really
All of it. All of it. Like, other than the set. The set design was great. Everything else was piss poor.
Yeah, but just like as someone was saying, like there's such a natural progression in the games. House, city. I guess city go to international for 4.
City
And in
again.
the village.
City,
Village.
More city. Yeah. Whatchamacallit? Yeah, so like I don't know, it's like especially after playing the remakes, like they could so easily that's why I am going back to another multiverse or whatever to go to a different film series to get you like, I guess you got Walking Dead then for comics, but then that becomes the show. You've only got I think if you watch the first season of Walking Dead and just pretend that's the end of it.
Oh my god, I had this exact thought. I was watching clips of the first season and I forgot how I made 6 episodes. It's incredible. Absolutely incredible. And then season 2 is not great. Season 3
Stretched out has good points, and then I kept dropping on and off.
The last time I watched it consistently was season 7. Basically, the moment they introduced Negan was when I cut off. I was like, I can't be bothered.
Yeah, that's the point where a lot of people think.
Yeah, I did jump shark. I was like, I really enjoyed it, but fuck it, I don't know. And they're still going strong. Season 11, by the way.
Final season though, but there's a spin-off or something.
And then Carol has left that.
3 spin-offs.
Yeah,
Carol's already been announced, but already left.
Yeah,
3 spin-offs. Rick died 3 years ago, but he's still alive.
And they've been meant to be making a movie about Rick for the last 3 years or something that hasn't come out. Yeah, I don't know.
I think where I dropped off, particularly, not that I haven't read any of the comics, but the
comics are great.
The thing with the governor
all the way through.
Yeah,
the governor. Yeah, apart from the ending, though, people said apparently the ending wasn't amazing.
I like the ending.
True.
There was a thing with the governor where it was supposed to be. I think it was maybe the finale to season 4 where he was supposed. It was supposed to be like I think in the comics it's a big show off and it's supposed to kill the governor, but he's coming to the prison camp and he just basically drives there, shoots at them, then drives away, and that's kind of the end of that season. I was like, what the fuck was that? Yeah. It was just kind of weird, and it seemed to be very different from the comics. But well, it's not that I've read them. From what I gathered from people talking about them, yeah, first season. I remember a mate of mine going like, "There's a conversation between Rick and Jack, no,
Shane,
Darryl,
Shane, yeah, in the car, and he's like." Just going by that, like my friend would be a big fan of high art, whatever. But he's like, just going by that conversation. This is going to be amazing, and then sadly went there.
That's it. So Dan, what is your kind of multiversal media? The thing that you kind of would recommend if someone likes a particular kind of game or film to kind of check out that's maybe kind of out there?
I mean, I feel like I'm going to just take the obvious one for me. Metal Gear Solid being an amalgamation of Eastern and Western culture. Like I've always thought of like Hideo Kojima as like whatever the opposite of a weeaboo is. Like, see how you get weeaboos over here that are into like Japanese shit? That's him, but for American culture because he's Japanese.
He's just running around quoting Die Hard and Terminator.
And yeah, it does. I mean, it takes from like all your kind of classic action films and sort of espionage films, but it obviously most prominently takes from Escape from New York. I mean, the character's literally called Snake and he wears an eye patch.
And he's and then his alter ego in was it Metal Gear Solid 2 or one of the games was
Iroquois
Pliskin, who is the name of the character in Escape
Snake
from
Plissken.
Yeah.
It also heavily borrows though from the classic Western movies. Snake is very Clint Eastwood.
I know
And
no name.
Ocelot obviously is a gunslinger, and he is very like Lee Van Cleef from the Spaghetti Western trilogy.
Oh yeah,
So
Oh,
yeah,
and
it
eye patch.
takes from a lot of that. Yeah, the eye patch, yeah, get on, Punished Massimo. And then obviously also takes from like the whole kind of like anime Japanese shit, because you've got Otacon, who's like a pure weeb, and then you've got the cyborg ninja, who is like straight out of
Raiden, our
and then
boy.
Raiden,
Yeah.
the kind of blonde pretty boy that often shows
Ghost,
up in animes.
yeah, and
And
Ghost in
then
the Shell, which I didn't.
the,
Yeah.
the,
I
the
had no idea
basic
about.
plot of Ghost in the Shell is quite it's similar in some ways. It's about kind of like, it's more about robots than it is about cloning, but it's along the
Yeah.
same lines.
Well, the final fight, I'd like the girl is dressed exactly like Solid Snake, and she's fighting a
A
fucking
mech thing,
tech,
yeah.
and she kind of both plays like Solid Snake and
Metal
Wolf Ninja.
Sniper Wolf,
Ninja.
Meryl.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, the
Grey
ninja.
yeah,
So like
Grey
that
Fox. Yeah.
final fight, like when she shows up, yeah. So the parallels there, I didn't realize were like, how could I love Metal Gear for so long and not realize either of these things or seen them?
Yeah, and yeah, I think it just works well because I've actually wrote an article about this, which I'll maybe post below, about the Metal Gear Solid film and how that tone, that mixed tone of like several different IP from different parts of the world, all meshes to make this totally unique thing that is strange, it's funny, it's serious, it's, like you can have a guy piss himself in a locker in one scene, and then you can have a serious discussion about nuclear arms in the next scene. It just
Hmm.
goes from one extreme to the other, and it works. Like it does work in a kind of cheesy pantomime way, but it's just framed in such a unique. I don't know, that there's nothing like it. It's never been recaptured or imitated by anyone else, and I find it fascinating.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting juxtaposition as well to kind of pose those two kind of cultures against each other in a
Yeah.
way that kind of creates this very unique like kind of combination of both, and it works for the most part as well, which is quite
Yeah.
incredible. While being able to be almost like I said, it definitely can rip the piss out of itself while also being.
I mean, it
serious.
is like the first game. I'm mostly kind of talking about the first game, obviously, but when you think about the whole saga, it's hugely confusing. Like when you start
it's
thinking
super
about the
convoluted.
whole plot line of it all, like trying to explain it to someone about
I
there's
think
these two clones cloned off a big boss who was trained by the boss who defected to Soviet Russia during the
But I
Cold
think
War.
it
Like
knows
it
that
just gets
it knows that
so.
though, doesn't it? It has
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
know.
it kind of plays
to
into
know.
that
Yeah,
100%. Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, what a series, man. It's a shame what happened to it in the end, because obviously Konami Russ Kojima with that last game, and the last game was unfinished when it was released. But yeah, hopefully the film's good.
If you were
Fingers
going to
crossed.
suggest a comic book that would fit in with Metal Gear Solid, what would you put it down for?
That's a good question. There likely is a few examples. I would assume it would probably be like
Possibly
an indie
more
comic or maybe an image
manga,
comic.
I
Or
would say
manga stuff.
I would say if you're looking for like something that's almost like a, I could be completely wrong here, but if you're talking like pastiche of kind of the modern genre and kind of like maybe something like The Boys or something like that, that's a bit weird in terms of the way it
Well, that would work
deals
on
with.
kind of more from the superhero point of view.
Yeah, like more of like a kind of like the idea of pop culture as a kind of whole and stuff like that, and kind of the subversions of certain tropes and that, and that being slightly convoluted. I don't know, maybe it could work like that, unless of course you're talking.
I think for me, I'd be like more when I'm trying to find something that'd be like Metal Gear Solid. I'd be thinking of
Like in terms of like a spy kind of
human.
film.
Well, yeah, but also maybe human versus robot.
yeah. Wait. Grant Morrison's The Invisibles. That's sort of along those lines.
Oh yeah.
No, not The Invisibles. Is it Trans? What's it called?
Metropolitan.
Transmetropolitan.
Transmetropolitan. Yeah, I think that's one of
That's
them,
sort of got those vibes too. And there's also a weird book by Frank Miller when he was slightly going off the deep end called Hard Boiled, which
Oh yes.
isn't unlike Metal Gear either, but it's a very weird Frank Miller on lots of drugs
It's a
book.
bit of that.
So just be prepared for that.
Would you be kind of like Blade Runner? A little bit.
Sure.
You're not exactly you're fighting humanoid
Blade Runner's
robots.
more like cyberpunk.
That was another option I was going to put in. Yeah.
Metal Gear's more military-based tech rather than like futuristic, like Deus Ex, like augmentation reality and stuff. But it does have elements of that, obviously. And then it's also got supernatural elements, like you've got like a vampire cutting about in the second game. That nanomachines or whatever, but yeah,
fucking Psycho Mantis and fucking
exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
what would you put
there's also elements of that. Like that's what I'm saying. It's such an amalgamation that it's kind of hard to pin down one example.
Rambo,
yeah.
I guess, kind of like some of the more
Yeah,
80s. It's a very like
any
80s action
80s
film and
classic,
stuff.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Like even
Really
Predator
forward.
to some extent, or
definitely.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, with the
Um,
ninja.
I think just to kind of top it off, then I'll kind of launch at mine. It might be like, I love Uncharted. I absolutely adore Uncharted. I love the games. And if you're going to go Uncharted, you're going to go to the granddaddy. And we already talked about it, but, Indiana Jones is probably the number
Mhm.
one for that situation. Your classic adventure films, pure schlocky, like these like things that are proper, like, I'd say adventure at its highest. Do you know what I mean? That kind of thing. Like, they're like, you've got your good guys, you've got your bad guys, usually Nazis, or even on the first Uncharted game, they literally go into a Nazi U-boat and stuff like that, and they fight against a German
Mhm.
guy as well, who's looking for the golden El Dorado. Yeah, I love the adventure genre. I love that kind of idea, and I feel like if you're playing something like Uncharted, going something like Indiana Jones or Tomb Raider with Lara
Yeah,
Croft,
you
or
can
kind of
jump
any of
around.
those kind of classic things. Like, they all do bring different parts to the genre, kind of, even though they stick on the same lines.
Again, though, the worst place to start would be the Uncharted movie.
Yes,
Yeah,
totally
yeah,
agree.
yeah.
I again don't mind it as an adventure
It's
flick,
fine. It's fine.
just as an Uncharted based thing. No, it's not. It's not that.
Yeah.
It's better than Indiana Jones 4, but not as good as the first
It's
three.
first
Put
three.
it that
Yeah,
way. It's just about
that's the
there.
best. It's the best way to describe it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I think those, if you're kind of looking for those kind of same kind of themes, and even if you're going back further, you're talking back to like is it Rock Samson and all that kind of back in the day, like your old school adventure kind of like 50s,
The
Moon Knight.
60s, all
Mummy.
that stuff. Moon Knight's in there,
Mummy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The Mummy,
Yeah.
Yeah,
first two
the
Brendan
mummies.
mummy,
Fraser.
the mummy's probably the big one as well. I
Brendan
think.
Fraser on that
Bit more
movie is very
supernatural.
Nathan Drake.
Oh my
Yeah.
god, the mummy's fantastic. The mummy's definitely, actually, the mummy's probably the first place I'd recommend. If you like Uncharted, I know Indiana Jones is great. Watch, watch the Mummy. The Mummy's the best Uncharted film.
High on, you gotta go for like high octane
Yeah.
action films with a bit of
Just
humor
like
to them.
that kind of classic adventure feel to them, like going
Mm.
after Sacred MacGuffin.
Hmm.
It doesn't have to be a period piece necessarily, but a lot of the best ones do tend to have that kind of.
What's interesting about Uncharted though, it did kind of progress that genre in some ways because obviously your Tomb Raider in the 90s, which was very much based on Indiana Jones,
Yes.
and then Uncharted was slightly based on both of those,
Yeah.
the Indiana Jones films and Tomb Raider, and then the Tomb Raider remake was inspired by the
By
Uncharted games,
Uncharted, yeah.
so it's interesting how they kind of informed each other over the years.
I
Um,
don't know what I could think of in terms of comics. Like, it's really quite something difficult. Like, in terms of, you're
I
talking
mean, there's
like,
got to be thousands of adventure
there's definitely, yeah.
comics.
There is like Indiana Jones
Moon Knight may
comics.
be a shout.
Moon Knight's probably one of the ones that most recently, because that is literally going into the desert to find a MacGuffin that's guarded by ancient
Egyptian,
gods.
yeah.
Man versus Supernatural. I feel like, from my limited experience with more kind of indie comics, like we seem to get a lot of like crime comics, but we don't like. I guess I just gotta read stuff that isn't superhero stuff, but like, I can't think of anything like that where there's more just like a general kind of. Well, we mentioned about the sci-fi kind of stuff, but in comics, I guess because of the medium with superheroes being so popular, but like I think your average comic book reader who's been reading for a couple of years is a little bit more aware of crime comics, but not so much like comics that fill that action film type vibe.
Which I think is quite interesting. That's kind of maybe died off a little bit. How like your kind of Indiana Jones kind of stuff, like those kind of foreign comics have kind of taken a kind of, they've kind of died almost. They've not really. There's not been. I mean, maybe we're due for a resurgence of kind of classic adventure comics with these kind of ideas. Because even if you're looking at your superheroes, you've got your Black Adam. That kind of rooted, or you look at Wonder Woman as well. There's probably several stories that you could kind of look for those kind of things, or those kind of things that are based in mythology in some way, where that's Egyptian mythology, Greek mythology, whatever, that then usually
Yeah.
has a person finding a magical MacGuffin that's going to fight off something, which I love.
I guess Captain America would fit that in a bit in certain cases.
Yeah, the Tesseract,
Mhm.
the first Avenger as well, is probably your first kind of good kind of comic booky film kind of
Fighting the
reference,
Nazis.
yeah,
Yeah.
literally, yeah. There you
Yeah,
go.
there's a lot of that even in his books.
Yeah, but I think I love the adventure genre as a whole, and I feel like there should be more love shown towards it. I know there's a lot in movies and stuff like that, and we haven't really got. I mean, even Uncharted kind of fell a little bit, and Lost City was a good example of how to do a fun, schlocky adventure film.
Well, I was going to say, it's very comedic at the minute, though. Like,
Yeah.
see, when you think about the big movies like Jumanji, The Lost City,
Yeah.
Jungle Cruise, like, these are all been kind of like comedies with an air of adventure over them. Whereas
feel
I'd
like
say like something like Uncharted and Indiana Jones is although
that's
there's still comedic elements,
but
it's a
they're
bit more.
adventure films. They're
Yeah.
almost inverse, where they're actually adventure films that have little bits of comedy sprinkled
Yeah.
in, versus a comedy film that has little bits of adventure
Exactly.
sprinkled in. Yeah, but I think there should be more comic books out there like that kind of relate to that, because you're saying, Jared, there's a lot of crime books in terms of that, a lot of thriller, a lot of horror, but there's the adventure genre kind of fell off the deep end and never really recovered after the 40s.
I think like with any big property, there is comic books of them. Like there is Indiana Jones comic books. I don't know if it's by Dark Horse or Image or something. Like all these films do have them.
Probably both. Like at
There's
some point.
there's probably Mummy comics as well, right? There's got to be Mummy comics.
Most do. I remember like being a big Buffy fan. I just never bothered my arse reading the Buffy comic books, and I was just like, like they do continue it on the story and that kind of stuff.
Same thing I feel about Smallville as well. Smallville had like 3 or 4 seasons that were continued through comics.
Yeah,
which was kind of cool.
I think that's a good starting point. So maybe like listeners can kind of like be thinking, oh well, like what could I do? Maybe we could comment below. But like, is there other comic books that like if you watch a certain film, you want to read a comic about it or play a game of it? Like, is there any other ideas that we haven't thought of? I know one that I just thought of there was Predator. There's Predator comic books. There's Batman versus Predator. So if you watch the Batman film, watch Predator. You want to read something with the two of them together? It's perfect marriage.
Leave a comment not only if you have like a film and then also a bunch of like comics to go with it, but see if you don't have a bunch of stuff to go with it and you just want more examples of that thing, put that, and then other people can reply and be like, oh yeah, this or play this. Or...
different ideas. Yeah, it's a good idea. I think that's just pretty much run out of time there, guys. I think we're gonna talk the talk. I think the multiverse has been saved by us sitting and having a hour and a half conversation about comic books.
We've joined some shit together.
We've
concursions.
We've stopped the incursions. All the universes are becoming one. Maybe we can add some flashing effects in here.
People are just going to chill out now and like play some Resident Evil or Uncharted or read some Walking Dead.
The multiverse is saved. Excelsior. No. But yeah, I think that's us done. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Pop Shop Podcast. If you've liked what you've heard, or if you haven't liked what you've heard, leave a comment below. Tell us what you liked, what you disliked. Leave a like, leave a dislike. YouTube doesn't show them anymore. We don't really mind. If you're listening to this through Spotify or Apple Music or wherever you get your podcast, rate us. Give us 5 stars, please. It would be nice to have some ratings. Or if you don't like us, give us 1 star. Because
no, I don't think that helps.
I don't think give us 1 star.
Dislikes on
YouTube.
5 stars. Take us away from the algorithm. So
only give us likes, but comment about how you don't like us.
We take back most of the things we just said.
We'll do back. Look, that was another. This is another. I'm in a different universe. This is how it works. In this one. No. But comment, subscribe, do those things, share about on social media. Leave in the comments what you think are things that maybe have similar vibes, or if you're looking to get into a particular genre and you have a property you love, such as Uncharted or Resident Evil, and you are looking for more suggestions along those lines, leave it in the comments below.
Or visit us on Facebook or Instagram and leave us it there. You can do that
all
too.
The socials, you can also do that as well. With that being said, I think we'll see you guys on the next page. Into the multiverse!
Here's the thing about multiverses.